some movie trivia. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. George Lucas originally wanted Yoda to be played by a monkey wearing a mask and holding a cane. And as somebody who is not a fan of George Lucas, who thinks he is wildly overrated, like, you want to talk about another guy. I mean, at least George Lucas has had success in his life. It is something that he holds many miles of experience over somebody like Trump. George Lucas has had success, but he's also full of shit. He is wildly overrated. Like, the ideas that he has were stolen. He says that, like, everything was mapped out and planned in advance, but it's clear that it wasn't. There's so many contradictions. He's an artist that goes back and makes his work worse. When he went back and, like, added a bunch of digital stuff in a time where, like, digital stuff wasn't even that good yet. Like, he is somebody that I'm very glad, not that I'm a big Star Wars fan, like, he's kind of made me less of a fan of Star Wars over the years, but thankfully he's not in control of it anymore. Not that Disney's much better necessarily, but at least we got Rian Johnson Star Wars. You know, that's a shining silver lining in the whole thing. But yeah, if Yoda had been played instead of by a puppet, you know, voiced and puppeteered by a master, I think it was Frank Oz, right? If that had been replaced by a monkey wearing a mask and holding a cane, it would have been the biggest flop. It would be such a joke. Because there's no way it would have looked good. Back in, like, when did Empire Strikes Back come out? $1980. You telling me the technology in 1980 would have produced a legitimately passing Yoda of a monkey in a mask and a cane? Like, if George Lucas of, you know, the prequel time had that idea, he would have done it. And that's what the prequels were. Like, the prequels were an example of nobody around George Lucas telling him, like, that's not a good idea. Because somebody, when he came up with the idea to have a monkey play Yoda, somebody said no. And that carried weight enough for him not to go with that. Whereas a little bit further in his career, if he was making Empire Strikes Back, it would have been a monkey in a mask, and it would have been bad. He probably would have had Jar Jar Binks' voice instead of Yoda's actual voice. Because that's what George Lucas, the unencumbered, unrestricted George Lucas, makes. He makes Jar Jar Binks when he has just surrounded by yes men. Versus him having to work within a system of, like, clear-minded people. He went with a puppet instead. The monkey plan ended up being too much of a hassle. So Star Wars brought Yoda to life in puppet form. Yeah. I'm very glad. And it holds up. That's the thing with puppets. Even though you know it's puppets, like, it still holds up better than, like, bad CG, I would say. Like, I appreciate some good puppet work way more than bad CG. Like, even Little Shop of Horrors, right? Rick Moranis, that plant, that puppet, looks so good, even today. And that came out in, like, the 80s. I mean, can you tell that it's like, yeah, it's kind of a puppet? Is it, like, stop motion-y, maybe? But it still looks better than, like, so much of the, like, the generic CG crap. Like, all of Seymour's scenes would have been in the dark, and you can't see anything. But you can actually light a puppet well. You can light stop action well. You don't have to hide bad quality CG. Yeah, so George Lucas overrated. Happy they went with the puppet. And yeah, I'm not a big Star Wars fan. I mean, I loved the originals. And again, Rian Johnson's, I think it is my favorite Star Wars film. J.J. Abrams, another overrated director in my opinion. The prequels, not good. Like as a franchise, Star Wars, very inconsistent. A couple great movies, some mediocre, and a lot of bad. Like almost half of it is just bad. So as a franchise, like one of the like most overrated franchise for the people that are like worship Star Wars, where it's like their identity as a human on this planet is as a Star Wars fan first and foremost. Like, that is sad. Even Harry Potter is a far more consistent and cohesive franchise. Because that's what happens when somebody's actually good at writing and like has actual, like, it is not like making up a story on the fly that they stole from somebody else. Anyway, George Lucas overrated. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.